Hi, everyone. This is Catherine Jelinek with the Skinny Platform, and I'm excited to be here today with Charlton Keultjes, an EOS implementer. Hi, Charlton. How are you?
Hi, great. Thanks for having me.
Great. So tell us about your nugget, the nugget you're here to share today.
Yeah, so the nugget I'm here to share is that organizations and teams, when they look into doing EOS, they realize that they have to spend 5 full days offsite with an EOS implementer. And that sounds like a big commitment to them because they're wearing 1,000 hats in the business and they're doing or dealing with 136 issues every day. And so that sounds like a really big commitment. And so often the uh, the question I get is how am I supposed to do that? I don't know that we can find a full day every quarter to do that work. And the response that I give them is you're not so busy that you can't spend a day off site doing planning. It's you're so busy because you don't do a full day off site every quarter. And so, right, to dig into that, we have a thousand things going on. And so when we don't prioritize those things that we're working on, we work on 1,000 at a time. When we do that, uh, we actually don't feel like we're moving forward either because we're just doing each one of them 5%. So one, we don't feel like we're making a lot of progress. We feel like we're on a hamster wheel, and the reason why there's 1,000 is because we haven't prioritized. So we get together in a quarterly. We get together 5 times a year to make sure that we're prioritizing with the team, and the team agrees on what are the most important things to do, and then by doing that, we end up having you have more time. You have time to go off site. You have more time in your day to day because you're focused on the most important things.
Creating that alignment.
Right.
It's easy to say, and it sounds like it's a lot harder to really commit to, especially for the clients.
Yeah. It's partly hard to commit to because we have to then have conversations, right? We have to debate and discuss what are the most important things. Oftentimes it's actually easier to just complain about the person that you see doing something. Say,
Uh,
well, why are they working on that right now? Right. It's easier to do that than have the conversation about, whoa, I'm not sure that you should be doing that this quarter, which is really the work that we do. So in creating our priorities for the quarter, we debate and discuss everyone's priorities for the quarter. And so if we don't think that you should be working on that thing, we say it. And so that takes, of course, some courage and transparency and team help.
that's a lot of accountability and behavior change, habit disruption in a good way, but definitely uncomfortable, it sounds like. Healthy
Yeah,
discomfort.
yeah, it is. It's interesting that someone once told me that before they became an EOS implementer, they gave their mom the book Traction, and so the mom read it and gave it back and said, "Wow, this is really great." If it wasn't for people,
Ah,
and of course, people are the reason why all of this exists because the tools in EOS are not very complicated. They're simple, practical tools, but simple not to be confused with easy.
absolutely. Big
And
difference
so,
between simple and easy.
yeah, so it's like most relationships, maybe all relationships, they're hard. We have a lot of baggage that gets created, and so yeah, your kind of your point of it's challenging work, and so we have to be intentional about it.
Intentional. Yes, that's a good word to use, especially when thinking about setting those quarterly offsites. That's a lot of intention going into those. Do you have examples of clients who have taken the leap then, obviously, are working with you, and now it's different? There is less busyness and chaos. There is that feeling of alignment because of the quarterlies and really integrating the EOS work.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe one more visual because I this is just when I think about this, I think about if you're trying to go from point A to point B, or you want to go in a straight line. And so most of the companies that I see, organizations I see, they have really great people doing great work. Right? So most of the work isn't it's not bad work. They're doing great work. It's just that right one person is going this way, another person's going this way, another person here, another person there. And so you're zigzagging to the point you want to get to. And so by the time you get there, right, it's 3, 6 months late. And so that's what creates that hamster wheel feeling that, wait, how am I working 50, 60 hours a week doing great work and yet we feel like we're not moving? It's just because we're going in different directions. We're not coming together, prioritizing on what the most important things are. And so if we actually stack those up the right way, right? The CFO is doing this, the COO is doing this, and we're we're in agreement on what those are, we actually then feel like we move forward. So right back to your question of examples is that it doesn't mean that they're not then working. Everybody's still doing a lot of work. It's still crazy. You're still wearing multiple hats. You just then have some sense of balance in the world, and you actually then feel like it's moving forward. Right? I love helping people and organizations hit this potential that they didn't know existed. When we don't, I think there's this feeling that we get like, wow, that was a really great year. We made a lot of money, and still I don't really feel very good. Like I experienced that when I was running companies. Like, this is great, best year in 75 years, but I think there's more. So one example is that this has happened with me. Another client of mine. Uh, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe a specific example, but I actually asked a client of mine when we were talking about doing this skinny. I said, what's the most impactful thing that you've learned from me in EOS? And the thing that he said was, Rox, I had kind of already sent this information over to you. And he said that we always had 1,000 things going on. And so it's really nice knowing that we're on the same page. So many entrepreneurs and leaders want to know everything that's going on. They want to be in all of the details. That's hard when everybody's doing so many things, right? So when they know, hey, I know the things down here, it's just 3 to 7 rocks, right? It's less is more. And then they actually see things moving forward too. So right, it's less for them to have to keep track of mentally, easier to empower people because we've come together, we've agreed on them, and then we check in on them regularly, and then they see everything moving forward.
That alignment and time spent creating that collective alignment creates more momentum, I'm hearing. Because then when you're seeing the entire team rowing in the same direction, that really picks up speed and can be felt by the team.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe back to the beginning,
Mhm.
that how are we going to do all of these things and go off site
Yeah.
for 5 days? Well, you won't know the real things to do unless you go off site for 5 days. It's maybe a simpler way of saying what I said at the beginning.
It's a great
And
summary.
and so consistently, my clients will say, we just don't talk about these things in our weekly meetings or week to week. We always talk about things here that we just don't ever get to. And so that part of that's just the intentionality of getting off site. And of course, then if you're talking about things off site over a full day that you don't talk about week to week, of course your priorities are going to be better. Of course you're going to be more aligned.
Taking the time, committing that time to do that aligning work. Perfect. Is there anything else you want to share about this nugget before we conclude?
No, I think that's it. I think I hit it all.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that, Charlton. And I hope, I know that this would be impactful and will be impactful to those who read about it and hear about it. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
This episode of the Podcast of Nuggets is presented by the Skinny Platform and is released in support of Freedom Reads, a national nonprofit opening handcrafted, curated 500-book libraries in prison cell blocks across America. Freedom libraries are more than just books. They are lifelines. They bring connection, hope, and dignity to prisons. Learn more at freedomreads.org. Freedom begins with a book.